Genesis 25 is not a quiet chapter. It begins with burial, it ends with betrayal, and in the middle of it, a family carries a promise that is already tearing the next generation apart. This is the chapter where Abraham dies, Isaac inherits two nations wrestle in one womb, and one brother trades eternity for a bowl. Abraham's death. Abraham took another wife, whose name was Keturah. She gave birth to Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. The sons of Dedan were Ashurim, Letushim, and Lamim. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldiah. All these were the sons of Keturah. Now Abraham gave everything that he had to Isaac, but to the sons of his concubines, Hagar and Keturah, Abraham gave gifts while he was still living, and he sent them to the east country, away from Isaac, his son of promise. The days of Abraham's life were 175 years, then Abraham breathed his last and he died at a good old age, an old man who was satisfied with life, and he was gathered to his people who had preceded him in death. So his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is east of Mamre, the field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth. There Abraham was buried with Sarah his wife. Now after the death of Abraham, God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac lived at Beer Lahai Roi. Genesis 25 opens with Abraham's later years. More sons are born, more names fill the page, more branches spread from the same tree. But then the text narrows the lens. Abraham gives gifts to others but gives everything he has to Isaac. That detail is not small, because in Genesis, not every descendant carries the covenant. There are many sons but one line of promise. Then Abraham dies old, full, gathered to his people, and in one of the chapter's quietest, most moving moments, Isaac and Ishmael bury him together. Just pause there. The son of promise. The son once sent away, standing at the same grave. And after Abraham dies, the text says, God blesses Isaac. Meaning the promise did not die in the cave with Abraham. It moved forward, non-canonical parallel. Gospel of truth. Some later Gnostic writing speaks of ignorance like a fog that blinds people from what is real, and that image works here as a contrast. Genesis 25 asks, who can actually see the invisible weight of inheritance, and who only sees what is right in front of them? Not everyone in this family sees with the same eyes. Why does Genesis spend time naming Abraham's other descendants if Isaac is the covenant heir? Now these are the records of the descendants of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's maid, bore to Abraham, and these are the names of the 12 sons of Ishmael, named in the order of their births: Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael, and Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names, by their settlements, and by their encampments, sheepfolds. 12 princes according to their tribes. Ishmael lived 137 years. Then he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people who had preceded him in death. Ishmael's sons settled from Havilah to Shur, which is east of Egypt, as one goes toward Assyria. He settled opposite east of all his relatives. Before Genesis turns fully to Isaac, it stops to name Ishmael's sons, 12 princes, tribes, villages, settlements. Ishmael is not the covenant heir, Mons, but he is not erased. God keeps his word even to the son outside the chosen line. That matters, because the Bible does not say, if you are not central, you are unseen. It says God's covenant may run through one line, but his faithfulness still reaches farther than people expect. So Genesis 25 is not only about election, it is also about memory. God remembers the ones history is tempted to treat like footnotes. Verse 19. Now these are the records of the descendants of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramean, Syrian, of Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban. The Aramean Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife, because she was unable to conceive children, and the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebekah his wife conceived twins. But the children struggled together within her, kicking and shoving one another, and she said, If it is so that the Lord has heard our prayer, why then am I this way? So she went to inquire of the Lord, praying for an answer. The Lord said to her, The founders of 2 nations are in your womb, and the separation of 2 nations has begun in your body. The one people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. Now the chapter tightens. Isaac is 40 years old, Rebekah is his wife, and like Sarah before her, she cannot conceive barrenness again, delay again, dependence again. So Isaac prays, and the Lord answers, but the answer does not arrive peacefully. Inside Rebekah's womb, the children struggle so violently that she cries out to God, "Why is this happening to me?" And the Lord answers with a word that shakes the entire future. 2 nations are in your womb, 2 peoples are being divided before they even breathe, and the older will serve the younger. The Lord said to her, "The founders of 2 nations are in your womb, and the separation of 2 nations has begun in your body. The one people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger." That line breaks normal expectation. In the ancient world, the firstborn carries privilege, weight, future, status, but God speaks a reversal before either son has done anything, before achievement, before failure, before reputation. The story is already telling us, God's purpose is not trapped inside human custom. Apocryphon of John, some Gnostic material, ties the human condition to darkness, desire, forgetfulness, and a distorted reading of reality. Again, Genesis is not teaching that mythology here, but the contrast is interesting. Before Jacob and Esau ever speak, the Bible already shows a hidden conflict beneath visible life. There is a battle under the surface before there is one in the field. What does Abraham's burial at Machpelah say about faith and promise? When her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out reddish all over like a hairy garment, and they named him Esau hairy. Afterward his brother came out, and his hand grasped Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob, one who grabs by the heel. Supplanter Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. When the boys grew up, Esau was an able and skilled hunter, a man of the outdoors, but Jacob was a quiet and peaceful man, living in tents. Now Isaac loved and favored Esau because he enjoyed eating his game, but Rebekah loved and favored Jacob. The first child comes out red, rough, hairy, Esau. The second comes out gripping his brother's heel, Jacob. Even the births feel symbolic. Esau grows into a hunter, a man of the field. He is action, instinct, movement, appetite. Jacob is quiet, settled, a man of tents. He is watchful, inward, calculating, patient, or maybe dangerous in a slower way. And then the chapter gives us one of the saddest lines in the whole scene. Isaac loved Esau. Rebekah loved Jacob. A divided home, a split affection. 2 sons already being formed not only by prophecy, but by favoritism. This is the covenant family, and it is messy. Chosen does not mean polished. Promise does not mean peaceful. What does the older shall serve the younger reveal about God's ways? Jacob had cooked reddish-brown lentil stew one day, when Esau came from the field and was famished, and Esau said to Jacob, "Please, let me have a quick swallow of that red stuff there because I am exhausted and famished." For that reason Esau was also called Edom, red. Jacob answered, "First sell me your birthright," the rights of a firstborn. Esau said, "Look, I am about to die if I do not eat soon, so of what use is this birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear an oath to me today that you are selling it to me for this food." So he swore an oath to him and sold him his birthright. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank, and got up and went on his way. In this way Esau scorned his birthright. Then comes the moment everybody remembers. Jacob is cooking stew. Esau comes in from the field exhausted, and suddenly the whole future seems to hang over one meal. Esau says, "Give me some of that red stew." Jacob says, "Sell me your birthright first. Let that land Jacob sees weakness, and makes a deal. Esau feels hunger and calls inheritance worthless. This is not just about food, this is about valuation. This is about whether a man can still recognize the worth of what God has placed in his house when his body is screaming for relief. Esau says, in effect, what good is a birthright to me right now? That is the pulse of the whole tragedy. Not open rebellion first, not atheism first, not a speech against heaven. Just this, what good is it to me right now? And people still lose holy things that same way. What good is prayer when I want control now? What good is calling when I want comfort now? What good is holiness when I want relief now? What good is inheritance when I can fill the moment with something hot and immediate and red? So Jacob gives him bread and stew. Esau eats drinks, gets up, walks away. And the chapter closes the scene with a verdict, not a guess. Esau despised his birthright. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and got up and went on his way. In this way Esau scorned his birthright. He did not merely exchange it, he revealed what he thought of it. Non-canonical parallel. Gospel of Philip. A later Gnostic text says ignorance is the mother of evil and slavery. Read beside Genesis 25, the parallel is sharp. Esau is not destroyed by hunger alone, but by blindness to value. He cannot feel the weight of what he is throwing away. In what ways is Esau still a warning today? Jacob answered, "First sell me your birthright, the rights of a firstborn." Esau said, "Look, I am about to die if I do not eat soon, so of what use is this birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear an oath to me today that you are selling it to me for this food." So he swore an oath to him, and sold him his birthright. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank, and got up and went on his way. In this way, Esau scorned his birthright. But don't romanticize Jacob too fast. Jacob wants the right thing, but he reaches for it the wrong way. He values the inheritance, but he does not wait in peace for God to unfold what God already spoke. So Genesis 25 gives us two warnings, not one. Esau warns us about appetite, without reverence. Jacob warns us about spiritual ambition without trust. One brother treats holy things too cheaply. The other tries to grab holy things too cleverly, and both errors still live in religious spaces today. Some people sell the promise because they are starving for the moment. Other people manipulate the promise because they are desperate to secure it. How does Jacob show both spiritual seriousness and spiritual immaturity? Genesis 25 exposes both. So what is this chapter finally asking us? Maybe not, are you Jacob or Esau? Maybe the deeper question is, what do you do when your appetite collides with your inheritance? When the body is loud, can the soul still hear? When the moment feels urgent, can faith still wait? When the bowl is steaming in front of you, can you still value what you cannot taste yet? Because Genesis 25 says a person can be close to promise and still despise it. A person can grow up near covenant and still not treasure it. A person can stand in a blessed house and still live with a blind soul. And yet the chapter also says this: God's purpose keeps moving through graves, through barren years, through divided families, through flawed sons, through hunger, manipulation, grief, and delay. The promise keeps moving. So don't trade what is eternal for what is immediate. Don't let exhaustion become theology. Don't let appetite rewrite destiny. Don't call worthless what heaven has marked as weighty. And don't miss this either. If you have already made bad trades, the God of Genesis is still the God who keeps moving history toward redemption. He is not shocked by family chaos. He is not confused by human weakness. He is not defeated by what people mishandle. But Genesis 25 still leaves us with a sober warning. Some losses begin not in rebellion, but in casual disregard. A bowl, a moment, a shrug, a choice. And suddenly, a man has shown what he really loves. Esau ate, Esau drank, Esau rose, Esau went his way. And the text says, he despised his birthright. So the question is not only what you are hungry for, the question is, what is your birthright worth to you? Where do people most often trade long-term spiritual inheritance for short-term relief? If this deep dive into Genesis 25 stirred something in you, stay with me for the next chapter, because the struggle in this family is only getting started. Drop your takeaway in the comments. Was Esau reckless, or was Jacob ruthless, or was this chapter exposing both?